I've had the great pleasure to welcome Carina McEvoy to today's podcast. She shared insights on using hypnotherapy to help children transform their fears into confidence. Truly inspiring. Ever tried a positive mantra? Carina's friend Frankie suggests that I can do it for kids. Simple words, big impact, building little champions, one thought at a time. Lighthouse parenting, guiding rather than solving every problem. Carina McEvoy emphasizes resilience and independence in kids. It's not about shielding them, it's about helping them shine. And Carina's recovery story post-surgery is a testament to the power of mindset and self-hypnosis. From severe pain to playing with kids, her journey is truly remarkable and motivating. Vaping and identity crisis among youth are real. Carina urges parents to guide and listen, helping children navigate societal pressures and develop strong decision-making skills. All of this and more on today's edition of the Professional Hypnotherapist Podcast. Well, Carina McEvoy, thank you so much for joining me today. And I'm really happy to have you with our very good friend, Frankie.
Oh, we are so happy to be here, aren't we, Frankie? Yeah. It's
Wonderful.
nice to see you again, Aidan.
Yeah, it's a long time. Well, I actually saw him the last time we met was at the Irish Hypnotherapy
That's
Conference,
it. Yeah.
and we had a great
Remember you?
conversation there.
Do, yeah. He does. He
Yeah.
remembers you. Yeah.
Oh, great.
He's excited to see you again. He is
Wonderful.
looking well, isn't he? Yeah, he is.
Yeah,
You're looking
you're
very
looking well
well.
too. And I'm sure all our viewers and listeners out there, well, the viewers will be able to see Frankie and delighted, and those who know him will be delighted to see him again and to
Shy. He's shy.
oh, he's a bit shy, is he? Okay. Well, Karina, as I say, it's lovely to have you as a guest on the Professional Hypnotherapist podcast.
Thank
Tell us
you.
about you've been on the podcast before a while back, and tell us what's happened in the meantime.
Well, Frankie and I have been working away for the last couple of years and working with
Yeah.
children as we do, which has been fantastic. We love our work. But in the last couple of months, myself and Frankie, we developed a pain down our arm, didn't we? Yeah, our right arm. And do you want to tell Aidan what it was like? It was a bad pain, wasn't it? Yeah, and it was pins and needles, and it wasn't getting any better. And I was the same. My arm was the same. So we ended up going to the doctor, and then we ended up having an MRI. Yeah, we did. And Frankie had never had an MRI before, so you were a little bit nervous before you went in. But we had a chat about it, and so we discovered it's so funny, Aidan. Both of us, we had three prolapse discs in our necks and our necks were curved, and we had no spinal fluid between our spinal cord and
Oh,
our
what? Say that again. No.
no spinal fluid.
Oh,
Yeah.
cerebral spinal fluid. Yes.
Yes, yeah, he wants me to tell you we had the beginning of something called myelopathy, which is where
Oh,
your
yeah.
spinal cord is being damaged. So we were both losing the use of our arm. And
Right.
if it had not have been discovered, because I actually thought for the last few years, I thought that I was developing arthritis in my hands because we were finding it hard to use our hands, weren't we? Yeah. And I thought it was arthritis, but it was myelopathy, this degenerative disease, I suppose.
Yeah.
And only for the prolapse discs, it would never have been diagnosed. I would never have known, and we would have lost the use of our arm and everything. So it
Yeah.
was kind of like a blessing in disguise.
Mm.
So we went then and had surgery. We had two of our discs out. You as well. It's so funny. Yeah, he had two as well, didn't you? And then we had them replaced with cages and
Oh,
our neck straightened. Yeah, the spine straightened in our neck. And yeah, we are 3 weeks post-surgery now.
well, both of you are wonders. I don't know how you managed to do this, but you, we had a brief telephone conversation, you and I, and you know, the the message I got from you was that, you know, the using the power of your mind and the positivity, but more specifically, I suppose, it's using the tools of hypnotherapy and
Mm.
indeed NLP. So tell us about that.
Absolutely. So even when we had the pain, and I can really compare this to back in 2010. Frankie, you weren't born then, no. But back in 2010, I also had a prolapse disc in the bottom of my back. And I had to have a discectomy, which is the disc is paired.
Right.
And so it was a much lesser operation, but still, it was still a kind of a, a fairly, I went through the ringer. You weren't here. No, you weren't here. Um, but to compare both, there's just an unbelievable difference in how I got through both surgeries with a different mindset. So back in 2010, I was absolutely off my head on pain medication, couldn't get out of bed. I was eating loads. I was just, my mindset was, I wouldn't say overly negative, but it wasn't positive either. I was just really taken in that, oh yeah, I'm, in pain and this is terrible and just off my head on painkillers. But this time around, I got off painkillers within maybe 9 days. I came off the painkillers. My mindset was completely different. That I can, really put up with the pain. I can deal with the pain. I've got a really high pain threshold, and the pain is okay. Even this time around, when I had now don't get me wrong, the pain was severe and everything, but I really programmed myself that I have such a high pain threshold. I am able to deal with this pain until I get to surgery. So I wasn't really on painkillers. It was more so my own self-belief that I could deal with it. When it got bad, maybe a little bit of self-hypnosis, the odd Panadol, and that was it. And the recovery so different as well, so different.
Mhm. That's wonderful. And obviously it was, you know, you utilized or used the skills that you have yourself, that the skills
Mhm.
that you impart to your many clients.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
this helped you. So this is, uh, proof in action, as it were. You know, we have verifiable proof that the skills of hypnotherapy and indeed NLP can be hugely beneficial to us.
Absolutely. Even before I went in, people couldn't understand how I was up and about and, working every day, going into work every
Yeah.
day, driving around, couldn't understand it. But I just was like, no, I can actually deal with this. I can deal with it. And I think telling myself for years about the high pain threshold that was vital. And my two children now, I can hear them saying the same. They'd say, Mom, I think I got that off you, that the high pain threshold. And I'm like, oh God, you did, yeah. And I don't get me wrong, and I wasn't a martyr or anything like that. I still looked after myself and all of
Mhm.
that. Um, but approaching everything, approaching the MRI, because the last time I didn't like the MRI, even going into it, I was quite nervous. I was saying, "Oh, I'm quite claustrophobic." I actually told myself I am claustrophobic going into the MRI. The MRI machines where
Yeah.
you go into them, and
Yes.
before I was like, I don't like these. I'm claustrophobic. I'm going to panic. And what happens then? You are scared when you're in it. So this time around, I was like, I'm absolutely fine with them. It's only for a few minutes. I can completely deal with it. I'm really strong in my mind. I
Yeah.
went in, and as soon as I lay on it and they were gliding me in, I kind of went into a little bit of self-hypnosis and a little self-hypnosis trick, and it flew by and we were fine. And then coming up to the surgery, people were asking me, are you nervous? Are you nervous about the surgery now? And no, not at all. What's there to be nervous about? I have an amazing consultant, Dr. Catherine Moore, in the Hermitage. I'm lucky to have health insurance. So not a bit nervous at all. She explained everything really well. Even the morning of the surgery, went in, chilled out to the last, even having my bloods taken. The doctors couldn't understand, the nurses couldn't understand how I was so calm. And woke up from the surgery. Now the anesthetic, I'm still a bit shaky from the anesthetic, and you're a bit shaky, are you? No, you're not shaky. I'm a bit shaky from the anesthetic still, but waking up, instantly waking up without pain. Did you find that? Did you wake up without pain? Yeah. And it was just instant relief when I woke up. It was amazing. And, in the recovery ward when I woke up, sure, I loved everybody. I loved all the nurses. I was going to bring them all home with me. And were wheeling me out of the ward, weren't they? And I love you. Goodbye, goodbye.
Um,
And yeah, I was home the next day and put on pretty major painkillers. And so were you. And we got through the first few days on the painkillers, just kind of sleeping. But then I started to feel quite, clammy and a little bit sick. So when I got the staples out, the nurse said, that could be the painkillers if you're not used to taking painkillers. Because I don't, you know, I would use hypnosis or something like that rather than take painkillers. So I actually said, you know what, then I'm going to go off them. And I
mm,
did. I went off the major painkillers and just stayed on paracetamol. And then I went off them, and we're on nothing now, aren't we not? No. And yeah, so we're 3 weeks later. We are, oh my gosh, we're just busy socializing, um, lots of reading. Like we're very much enjoying our time off work, aren't we? Yeah, even though we do miss our children, don't we? But we are enjoying it. Doing pottering around the house, Aidan, doing little bits like sweeping. I can't lift anything heavy, and I'm not going to jeopardize the work. I respect the
oh
work
no.
the surgeon has
Mm,
done. So can't do much housework. But just pottering around the house and back driving as well, little drives.
wonderful.
And
Mhm.
yeah, so yeah, we're just kind of flying it, aren't we? And even our scar, I don't know if you can see the scar there. I knew I would have a scar, and even at that, I'm okay about that. And even like that's 3 weeks post, and
Yeah,
it's kind of okay. And you can see, oh, he wants to show you his
yeah, yeah.
scar as well. Yeah, we
I see
haven't.
Frankie's. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it's okay. Like
Mm.
it's not sore or anything. And in my mind, I just have this record playing that, it'll heal, it'll be fine,
Absolutely. Yeah,
it'll be absolutely fine. And,
yeah.
so
The,
we're,
the quality of your self-talk helps as well.
it really,
You know.
really.
But tell us how Frankie has helped you.
Well, Frankie's really, really helped me, haven't you? Because it's nice to go through this, I suppose, with somebody who kind of gets what it's like.
Yeah,
Because, for anyone doing something, if you don't really know what's happening, and I guess I had you too, didn't I? If we don't really know what's happening, it is nice to have someone to talk to.
yeah,
And he reminded me of certain skills, and I reminded him of certain skills, and self-talk going in. So it was great, wasn't it? And then together, what we decided to do was we started a TikTok. We're just kind of messing around with it, and our thought is if there's any one child out there that we can reach, that's brilliant. So we decided, gosh, you know what? There's lots of children out there who maybe have to have an X-ray or an MRI because we had to have X-rays too, didn't we? Yeah. Or blood tests or injections. Go to the doctor, go to the hospital, and when you're a tiny bit younger, because Frankie's only 7, and you were a bit nervous because it was his first time doing some of these things. So
right.
he was a bit like that.
Yeah,
So I'm thinking if there's any children out there, maybe we could tell them how we got on, what it was like, and how we coped with it, how we dealt with it, in a positive way.
great,
I think
great. It seems to me that both of you support each other,
oh, we do.
you
Yeah.
know?
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you. I don't know what I would do without him. Yeah. No, he's
yeah,
brilliant. He's a great little
yes.
pal, aren't you? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
So,
to.
Carina, in your work, you work specifically with children.
Mhm.
Tell us about that. Tell us, in other words, tell us or tell our listeners or our viewers, you know, um, who is your target audience? Who do you work with specifically?
Well, we work with children, teens, and their parents. So the parents are actually quite important. So even though we would work a lot with children, and teenagers, the parents are very important in our work as well, aren't they? Yeah. And sometimes we would have parents in our office and, oh, you do love annoying the dads. He does. He love annoying the dads. Yeah. And we would be using the parents as props or whatever as well. Yeah. And I suppose when you're working with young children as well, um, if the parent may or may not be in the room, depending, all depends on the case. But when the parent is in the room, you're kind of doing a dual session. You're working on the child, but you're also working on the parent as well, aren't you? Yes, exactly, because sometimes it's maybe the parent that probably needs the session a little bit more, isn't that right? Yeah, yeah. But we love our work, don't we? You absolutely love it. And Frankie's a big hit.
I'm
Hmm.
sure. I'm sure. Now, nowadays we hear all that's happening in the world and, the pressures of school, the pressures of young people. We hear about all this vaping that's going on with specifically with young children, young adults, even younger than teens who are doing this vaping. Uh, uh, what's your take on all of this, Karina?
Well, I kind of have two takes on it.
Yeah.
So, children are actually going through the identity crisis younger this day and age, I feel. Their hormones are kicking in much younger, and they are facing the identity crisis that maybe, 30, 40 years ago, people didn't really face till they maybe hit 13, 14. Whereas now it is starting around 11, 12. And everything is starting a little bit younger. So, on one hand, it's very, very normal for children to go through that phase of being curious. I have like my own daughter and my niece have started first year this year in school, and so we know what you're talking about. They walk past plenty of people vaping, but they are and a lot of young people. There are young people vaping, but Aidan, there are a lot of young people who are so anti-vaping and anti-smoking also. But it is a very curious thing that children go into, or preteens go into. It's part of the identity crisis. They're trying to fit in. They're trying to fit into this group, into that group, and see what, where do they fit in. So on one hand, it is very, very normal. But on the other hand, sometimes it can be a sign of, if it's not, say, a normal curiosity, it can be a sign of an unhealthy coping mechanism for something going on. And a lot of what's going on for young people this day and age is they are stressed. They're stressed and they're anxious. They're under a lot of pressure. They've very little free time. And the free time they do have is taken up with like indoor activities and stationary activities like tablets and gaming and, that kind of activity. Whereas um, stress can be controlled a lot through movement, getting out and about and moving. So we're big fans of getting out there and just moving and dealing with the stress that way, aren't we? Yeah.
And that sort of brings us on to dovetails with, the whole area of mental, emotional health of the young person. And, I'm sure there will be parents out there who are watching this, aunts and uncles or whatever who are watching this. Um, what little bit of advice would you impart to them? And maybe you'd actually get Frankie's opinion on this as well.
The lighthouse parenting. Wow. Well, through the ages, that's really good. No, I will bring that up. Through the ages, we've heard of all these different parenting styles. So helicopter parenting, lawnmower parenting, where parents will go ahead and mow down all the obstacles so children don't have to face any difficulties. But there's a new term now, the lighthouse parent. And
Oh,
it is basically what we talk about a lot in work and what we would encourage and
yeah,
steer parents towards. And that's basically where you are this strong beacon of light in the child's life, that you are there to shine a light and to guide, but you're not going to do everything for them. And I really think that that's kind of, what children really need this day and age, because what I find is that children are lacking problem solving skills, resilience. And that can be down to the stress that parents are under. Parents are under so much stress, paying mortgages, paying off for cars, paying for childcare. Both parents have to work, leads to a lot of parental guilt. And life is busy. So sometimes it's easier to tie the child's shoelaces. Sometimes it's easier to get their drinks. Sometimes it's easier to rush in and solve the problems. Excuse me, for them. Yeah, I'm okay, thank you. And within that, children are losing their own ability to solve their own problems and their own self-belief that they can do it as well, which leads to this anxiety. Because anxiety is really boils down to something terrible might happen and I won't be able to deal with it. That's really what anxiety is when we come to the child, and it's always something, say, future based. So my advice would be to, actually push the child a little bit more into building resilience. Stepping back from that term, I suppose. Did you ever hear that term, mollycoddling? I would
yes,
ask my man,
yes.
you're a mollycoddler, you're a mollycoddler. And let the child kind of figure things out for themselves. And what's happening for the child when they begin to do that is they begin to build a sense of belief in themselves and capability, self-capability, resilience, independence. And that can be from, little things like doing chores around the house. Or do you know what is a skill? Is so important to teach children. And a lot of children don't really have this skill, do they? Did you have this skill when you came to me? No, no. It's making decisions. Even simply making decisions. Making decision is a really important life skill. And a lot of children and sometimes they're just so sweet. It's kind of like, no, whatever you want, no, whatever you want. But making a decision is such an important life skill. And
Yeah,
able to teach the child to do that. Um,
yes,
coming up with their, children to don't, what children really need from an adult or from a parent is the ears. It's the listening. Is to have a soundboard, to be able to talk through a problem and to be able to figure out the problem in their own head. Did you ever talk to someone about problem, Aidan? And that's right, Frankie, while you're talking through the problem, you're actually figuring it out in your head and you come up with the answer. Whereas parents who are very well-meaning and full of love and care and all of that, what they will do is they will go off in their own head. No, I'm just showing it in my eyes. So they'll go off in their own head. So when you do that, you're losing contact with the child and you're losing that connection. And parents will be like, well, maybe I'll ring the teacher now and talk to her about that. And they're gone off in their own head to figure out what they're going to do about that issue. Whereas
yes,
what children really need is just to talk out, have someone there to listen, and then maybe if they're stuck, have someone suggest a few, you know, solutions. But really encourage the child to use their own brain and mind to come up with solutions, because children, and this is proven to me time and time again, children have their own solutions and they come up with them so easy. They're just sometimes not given the chance to come to them, because they're, I don't know, maybe seen as younger, but they're amazing what they can come up with.
what I'm hearing from you is it's like trying to strike a balance, you
Mhm.
know, giving the child the freedom, but at the same time, not necessarily directing too much. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, you've just said it. It's kind of like parenting is like a dance, Aiden.
Right.
Sometimes
Okay.
you lead the dance, and
Yeah.
then sometimes you follow. And then I suppose the balancing act is, I suppose, for the parent to know when to jump in, when to lead, and
Yeah.
then when to let the child. Like, my sister has a 1-year-old now. He's one this month, and she's amazing with him. She's really amazing with him. And I see her, and he's started walking, and he could be climbing up on a chair. And instead of her saying, get down, that's dangerous, get down, she'll probably say something like, now watch where you put that step, or watch where you put your foot, and she'll be with him. So she let him do it
Yeah.
and give him the sense of, I've done it, without kind of instilling a sense of fear, or you can't do this or you can't do that. And I think that's amazing. Like, she sent me a video yesterday, and he was climbing up the stairs. And he was climbing up the stairs, and he'd go 3 steps, and he'd turn around and he'd look at her and he'd smile and laugh, and then he'd go again. And she was just behind him, Sophie fell, she was there. Now, she said, I'm going to have to get a stair gate. So, if I'm cooking dinner,
Yes.
whatever. But I think that's fantastic, because children, they do need, that kind of risk play, and they do need to get their hands dirty and discover the world. But then you're right, Aidan, is that balance that they do have that safe haven to come back to. Or if they go out into the world to explore something and they're not quite sure, that they have that safe haven, the parent to come back to check in with.
Yeah, it's sort of like an accompaniment, that you're accompanying the child and being there, to be that, I suppose, give the support when necessary. Would that be correct?
Absolutely. That's so, so good. So Frankie reminded me of that old saying, you are teaching the child. No, what was it, Frankie? Yeah, you are. I didn't quite get that, Frankie. No. You're basically, it's the saying, you will probably know it, Aidan, where you are teaching the child to walk the road, basically, rather than changing the road for the child. You know that saying? I won't come.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't quite understand what you
No,
said.
no, I get it, and I'm sure our viewers and listeners will get it also.
They'll know. They'll know it. Yeah,
Yeah, of course,
my
of
head is
course.
doubled, but yeah. So basically, you're a parent is there as a teacher to um, help the child figure life out, figure out the ups, figure out the downs, and instead of pulling them away from the downs, help them get back up again
Yeah.
and be able to face those downs, because life is full of ups and downs, and we're going to have, oh yeah, ups and downs, and we are all going to face ups and downs. So it's about helping our child face them with resilience and be able to get back up again, rather than taking all the downs away, you know.
This word resilience comes up again, and the importance of resilience, and being so that when you have a set or a setback, you get up on the horse again, as it were,
Mm. Yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
um, sorry, did you want to develop that?
Yeah. No, no, no.
Okay.
Has something in your
Um,
idea. Yeah.
the parents or anyone watching and listening to this, now, perhaps you just describe for us the specific areas of work that are maybe specific issues that you have worked with,
Mm.
if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started off, so from my own background, I was quite an anxious child,
Mm.
but going back many, many years, anxiety wasn't a word. Nobody knew what anxiety was. It was, she suffers with her nerves. She suffers with her nerves. Um, but yeah, I was a hugely anxious child, and yet I was quite comical and out there.
Yeah.
So it was funny that I was quite anxious at the same time. So nobody knew I was really anxious, but it was quite a private, I suppose, anxiety. And because it wasn't addressed, it just developed into, by the time I was maybe 17, 18, I was quite depressed. The anxiety was quite heavy. I developed OCD. So, to cut a long story short, I managed to deal with all of that. Went to see a counselor myself, became very interested in hypnosis, became a teacher, studied hypnotherapy and all of that. So in while I was teaching, I realized that there was so much anxiety about, so much anxiety. And then when I had my own children, I realized that it wasn't, because I taught secondary school. It wasn't just secondary school. It was like I was meeting parents at the play school and the children were anxious. So I took a career break after my second child and I wrote a book for anxious children. And I met so many parents then through doing talks about the book, who wanted to go and see somebody, wanted to bring their child to see somebody. So I decided, you know what, I'm not going to go back to work. I'm going to see children. So initially it was purely for anxious children. And then there was children coming in with behavioral issues, like anger issues and all of that. So we were like, okay, yeah, we can do that too. And then lots of issues then around, say, that really go back to anxiety, biting nails and bedwetting and hair pulling and all of that. A lot of victims of bullying behavior also. A lot of separation anxiety. A lot
Right.
of separation anxiety, yeah. And then we would see some children who maybe have parents who've decided to separate, and we want to talk through that. Grief, yeah, grief as well, yeah. So kind of everything and anything that relates to the emotions.
Yes, that children, commonly present with.
Yeah,
And I'm sure that Frankie was of great assistance to you there doing all this work.
he is. He's really good because, you
Uh,
know, I understand when children come in to see me, um, naturally they are going to be anxious. And this is the thing about anxiety. It's natural. It's so natural, but it's demonized in our society. And it is like children and like teenagers, they feel like they shouldn't be anxious. It's a bad thing. So actually part of our um therapy, I suppose I would call it teaching, is that it's normal. It's really normal. It's natural. It's a good thing. And just to be the boss of it, to be able to manage it rather than have the anxiety manage us. But when children come in, Aidan, they get quite anxious and nervous. So Frankie, he can really relate to them because he gets like that when he meets new people. Look, even talking about it now, he can get a little bit nervous himself.
I see that.
He
See that.
can, even when he's
Mm.
thinking out. So when he meets someone for the first time, he will meet them feeling a little bit nervous too. So
Yeah.
then they immediately, they're like, oh my gosh, they're on the same
Yeah.
level, and then it takes
Yeah.
him a while to come around and it might take the child a little while to come around. But when they get, they understand that Frankie's the same, they come around a bit quicker actually, and they end up helping Frankie. But another way
Mm.
Frankie really helps me is Frankie doesn't speak out loud, as you know. He only whispers. He whispers to me,
Yeah.
and then I can tell you. But he really bonds with the children. And sometimes he stops speaking to me, don't you? You refuse to speak to me. He thinks it's really funny. And he will only speak to the child. So,
Yes.
when we're chatting about stuff, he will tickle their imagination and he will tell them,
Yeah.
uh, what's going on for him. Um, and then the child will be able to tell me. And do you know what's really kind of good, Aidan, is, you know, when Frankie's telling me about his first day of school or starting school and how he's feeling, and he tells the child, it kind of ends up being the same way the child is thinking.
Right.
And it's always how the child is feeling as well. So they bond so well. So
Yeah.
we work with Frankie. Sometimes children come in to me would say, I don't know, being afraid to leave their mum's side. And we would say that's funny because Frankie's a bit like that with me.
Mm.
And during the session, the child ends up teaching Frankie how to leave my side. And he goes away being able to leave his mum's side as well.
I know. Do you think that Frankie ever open up his own clinic?
I think maybe in a couple of years when I retire. Yeah, I think
Mm.
so. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah. Well, my daughter now, she's in TY and she's very interested in this type of work as well. So maybe you and Anna could go in, and then we have Ellie coming on board as well. But maybe you could keep it going till they come on. Oh, Aidan, he wants to know, would you be able to do a podcast with him on his own?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no
I need
problem
to
at all.
push me out of the way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the
He
only thing is
spoke in
you
Vegas
have,
this year, Aidan.
I beg your pardon?
He spoke in Vegas this year.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh, well,
he did.
tell us about that. In
Yeah, he
fact,
went
that's
to
a very
Vegas.
good
Yeah, he was in.
segue.
Yeah, he went to Vegas to speak to at Hypno-Thoughts Live, and
Great.
he spoke to other hypnotherapists about working with children, didn't you? Yeah, he did, and you loved it, didn't you? Yeah, but he loved Vegas. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And how did that go for you? Were both you and Frankie happy as a result of going there?
Yeah, we were. I
Yeah.
mean, there are so many children out there who need us.
Yes.
And we are in a really good position to be able to help children because we're
Yeah.
hypnotherapists. We work with the mind.
Yeah.
And with children, when they come in, they're already in hypnosis. Up to the age
Yes.
of 7, they're in hypnosis all the time. They don't even need to close their eyes. You're working with their imagination. So who better than to work with children than hypnotherapists? You are literally working with their imagination.
Yeah.
And they don't question it. They don't question it. So they need us. We have the skills. So why not put them together? You know,
Absolutely.
there is a bit of fear around working with children. Um, because it can be like you're saying, you don't know where you're going to go. You never know where you're going to end up. It's very child led. But it's so easy, Aidan, because their imagination is so open and
Yeah.
there's no fear to using their imagination. It's actually
Yes.
and it's very uplifting, really uplifting work, you know.
Hmm. Hmm.
Love it.
Excellent.
Mhm.
Well, that was wonderful. Is there one final sort of golden nugget, as it were, that you'd like to impart to specifically to parents out there, and indeed maybe the younger listeners who may be listening? What's your final parting
Mm.
words of wisdom for us?
Oh, that's
Maybe
amazing.
maybe ask Frankie there if you wouldn't mind contributing to this.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. They can. Yeah, deal with. Yeah. Oh, that's a really good one.
Right.
So Frankie said a really good thing to do for any child out there
Yeah.
is, even if they don't believe this at the moment, right, to begin to tell themselves, I can deal with it. It's
Wonderful.
okay because I can deal with it. Even if they
Wonderful.
don't believe it. And the more and more and more they say to themselves, stronger and stronger that will get in their brain. And the stronger it gets in their brain, the more they will be able to deal with whatever happens. Because once something happens and you say to yourself, I can deal with it, then it's not really a big problem. So have a mantra, it's okay because I can deal with it. Do you think that's a good golden nugget? Yeah. Okay.
It's okay because I can do it. That's great. That's
Yeah, and I
wonderful.
can do it. That's a good one too. Yeah.
Yeah, great. And how can we contact you, Karina?
So you can contact me on my email. I am info@carinamcevoy.com. That's pretty simple, isn't it? I'm also on Facebook on Emotional Therapy Center.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And we're
So,
TikTok. We're TikTok also now, yeah. Um, well, I know your name is not on TikTok, but you see, yeah, okay. We're gonna have this argument off screen because he gives out to me. But TikTok is just at Carina_McEvoy. Yeah.
okay.
I
And
will.
give us the Instagram again, please. Just say it nice and slow.
Oh gosh,
Yeah.
Instagram, I think it's just Carina McEvoy. But
Oh, is it?
TikTok is at Carina _McEvoy.
Okay, but then there was something else.
Facebook is just the Emotional Therapy Center.
That's the one.
Yeah.
So it's the Emotional Therapy Center,
Yes,
yeah,
that's the name of our
on
business.
Facebook.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great. Well, Carina McEvoy, thank you so much. And thank you to Frankie. I mean, Frankie was a great help today. And I look forward to interviewing Frankie at some stage in the near future if he's up to it.
Oh, he's so up to it, aren't you? Yeah, absolutely. You're great. Give us a high five.
Great. Thanks, Carina McEvoy. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, Aileen. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye, Frankie. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You have been listening to the Professional Hypnotherapist podcast, and I have been your host, Aidan Noon. Why not pop over to eaph.ie and find the hypnotherapist just waiting for you now. So that's all for now. Until next time, bye-bye.